What's going on, everybody? A pleasure to be back with you. Another edition of the Pass Ball Show. Going to give it another whirl. We'll see if I come up with 3 topics each program, entertain you, hopefully, for the course of the next several years. I do want to talk about something that happened about a month ago in the NFL in regards to Emari Demercado and the Arizona Cardinals. Actually, I'm going to start it over again. We're going to go one more time. Ready? What's going on, everybody? Another edition of the Pass Ball Show. I am John Pielli here with you. I'm going to do my best to try to entertain you over the course of the next several episodes. We're going to talk about 3 specific sports topics. Some of them are going to be more controversial than others. I am going to start a series as long as it's relevant to preview an off-season for an entire MLB team. And I do want to talk about something that happened about a month ago in the NFL that has really it's gotten on my nerves, and I'm surprised more wasn't done about it. But I want to make a case right now about who the worst commissioner in the history of Major League Baseball is. And a lot of people believe it's Rob Manfred, and I'm willing to listen. Like I said, comment any way you possibly can, and I'll respond to every comment that I hear or get on the Pass Ball Show. Rob Manfred has done some things that have been questionable. You know, Kennesaw Mountain Landis is probably considered one of the worst commissioners in all of Major League Baseball history, and a reason that stands out is he went out of his way to keep integration from happening into baseball because he didn't like black people. Now, I feel like there's a different commissioner that should be considered the worst of all time, and his name is Bud Selig. Bud Selig, I don't like the way that he even took over as commissioner of Major League Baseball. If you remember, it was around the time Bart Giamatti passed away, Fay Vincent took over. Bud Selig, for years, was involved in the ownership group of the Milwaukee Brewers. Prior to that, was involved with the Milwaukee Braves, and obviously had an affinity for Hank Aaron, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But his place as an owner in Major League Baseball kind of made it a conflict of interest for him to become even the acting commissioner of Major League Baseball. So that's kind of part number 1. I'm not so keen on Bud Selig for that reason. And then obviously as that happens, there is that clear conflict of interest. And basically the reason he forced Fay Vincent out was because him and the other owners wanted to push for a salary cap in Major League Baseball. Led to a stronger divide between the owners and the players, and the strike that we saw in the 1994 season, which of course resulted in a cancellation of postseason. For the first time, there's no World Series in 90 years. And I think Bud Selig had a lot to do with that. Of course, baseball regains itself because the trust of the consumer, which is the fan, is destroyed at that time. I remember being a kind of a younger baseball fan saying, why am I going to want to follow a game that the individual players and the owners care more about themselves than the very product that I'm here to consume and enjoy? What brings baseball back? The home run chase of 1998. And this is, of course, Bud Selig in the front row, cheering on Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa as fans are packing the stadiums again. And all of a sudden, baseball's coming back for the first time since the fans' distrust gained during the strike of 1994. He's there. He is cheering on Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. And of course, it's not until Congress gets involved that he starts to take a firm stance on the use of performance-enhancing drugs in the sport. Now, I'm going to make it clear. I'm going to say a lot of disparaging things about Bud Selig here. I'm not going to believe that he was pro-steroids. Everything that he says in regards to not wanting the game to be involved that way, I'm taking his word for it. I think as a commissioner, as the guy that's overseeing the whole sport, it's very hard to get into the locker rooms and figure out exactly what it is that the players are taking. I think he could have been a little more proactive particularly during the home run chase of McGwire and Bonds in Sosa in 1998. The same stance that he ended up taking for Barry Bonds. And really one of the things that frustrate me the most is the combination of his love affinity for Hank Aaron, who I think is an all-time great, one of the greatest hitters baseball has ever seen. Everything that Hank Aaron went through during the home run chase of the all-time record of Babe Ruth is stuff that he should not have had to go through. I'm a huge Hank Aaron fan. Problem is records are made to be broken. And Bud Selig put his own personal affinity for Hank Aaron over the treatment of Barry Bonds and the rest of his career. And Barry Bonds, obviously we know, breaks the single season home run record in 2001, ends up becoming an immortal where nobody wants to even pitch to him. He gets one pitch to hit a game, and he's likely to hit that out of the park. Probably one of the most dominant players over a certain stretch of time that the game of baseball has ever seen. Barry Bonds breaks Hank Aaron's home run record, which I know pissed off Bud Selig. Bud Selig couldn't stand this. This really got under his skin. And I believe that he colluded with the other owners of Major League Baseball to keep Barry Bonds from playing after the 2007 season. Barry Bonds becomes a free agent after 2007. He breaks Aaron's all-time home run record, has 762 home runs, and Bud Selig is involved in some way, shape, or form of keeping the Giants and every other team for signing him, prolonging his career. And if this is the case, this has to be brought up to Bud Selig, and this has to be considered when you're thinking who is the worst commissioner in all Major League Baseball history. Barry Bonds' season finishes with an over 1,000 OPS. He hits 26 home runs. There's 30 teams in Major League Baseball. 15 are playing in the American League. So if Barry Bonds cannot play the outfield, which may disqualify him for some National League team, there is an American League team out there that can employ him as the DH for the 2008 and probably 2009 and 2010 season. Bud Selig has something to do with the fact that he doesn't sign with anybody as a free agent. Next, Bud Selig conveniently, in my opinion, retires as commissioner in 2015 because I think he's up to something else. Not only am I holding him responsible for Barry Bonds' career ending, I'm also going to hold him responsible for Alex Rodriguez and his career ending. There's no doubt that it's proven that Bud Selig doesn't like Alex Rodriguez. Maybe it's the steroids thing. Maybe it's the fact that, A-Rod could be a little pompous or arrogant or whatever. There might be many different reasons to dislike Alex Rodriguez, but whatever ones that Bud Selig chooses, he chooses. He's going to go out of his way to end Alex Rodriguez's career. It's the suspension that's put in for the rest of the 2013 season and the entire 2014 season, basically delaying the possibility that he can go chase some home run records. Rodriguez at that point got well over 600 home runs, is certainly a threat to get into the 700 category where he can not only pass Babe Ruth, but Hank Aaron and maybe even Barry Bonds. Bud Selig doesn't want this to happen under his watch, but he is smart enough to say, hey, if I single-handedly or had a lot to do with Barry Bonds' career ending, I also don't want to be responsible for Alex Rodriguez. Rob Manfred comes in, becomes commissioner. Under the, behind the scenes, Bud Selig is working to eliminate Alex Rodriguez from playing baseball. First, a suspension, then he comes back. Hopefully, in Selig's eyes, Alex got nothing left to show. He goes out there, he hits 33 home runs as a designated hitter for the New York Yankees in 2015. Sitting there with 696 home runs. And the next season, I'm confident that he got a hold of Hal Steinbrenner. I'm confident that he spoke directly to people in the Yankees organization saying, hey, can you not play Alex Rodriguez in 151 games? Can you not give him a chance to have another 33 home runs and get to 700 and break, past Babe Ruth and possibly challenge to, Hank Aaron and eventually Barry Bonds? He doesn't want this to happen on this watch. I think he is involved in the Yankees' plan for A-Rod in 2016. Why else would he hit 33 home runs in 2015 and all of a sudden kind of be a side note for the New York Yankees? And by the way, not only is he signed through the 2016 season, but he signed another year in 2017. I think he goes from the control panel, he voices himself in, says, hey, the Yankees at some point got to do something with A-Rod, get him off the team. The Yankees plan a day for him, they honor him, they release him, they eat the rest of his contract, which includes the 2017 season. 29 other teams in baseball have a chance to sign him, not only for the rest of 2016, but for 2017. Nobody does. I don't think this is a situation where all these teams individually are like, hey, I don't want A-Rod to be part of my team. Something systematically has to be put into place. Something has to be colluded amongst the owners of Major League Baseball. Similar to banning Bonds from playing after 2007, the owners were told, and I promise you, they were told not to sign Alex Rodriguez. Why else would somebody not sign him to hit 4 home runs? Alex Rodriguez is one of the most prideful baseball players that cares about himself, cares about his legacy. Why is he going to suddenly stop playing baseball voluntarily when he's 4 home runs short of getting to 700? I got a problem with that. And I'm blaming the commissioner. I'm blaming Bud Selig. Another thing I'm going to point to is going back to Barry Bonds. When Barry Bonds was stopped playing after the 2007 season, he fell a little bit short. 2,935 hits, 1,996 runs batted in. Both accomplishments that I'm sure he would have liked to fulfill if he could. Alex Rodriguez in 2015, probably surprising to Selig because he thought that by suspending him for the entire 2014 season, A-Rod's career would kind of wash itself out. A-Rod landed some milestones. 2,000 runs scored, 3,000 hits, 2,000 RBIs. Selig didn't want him to get to 700 home runs. Certainly didn't want him to pass Babe Ruth. Certainly didn't want a threat for him to pass his beloved Hank Aaron. And I look at it and I'm trying to say, hey, is Bud Selig a worse commissioner than Kennesaw Mountain Landis? And Kennesaw Mountain Landis took over baseball at a time where they needed somebody to kind of enforce some rules. Players were running rampant, gambling became a thing. The 1919 Black Sox damn near destroyed baseball. Kennesaw Mountain Landis put the sport back on the map again. But he also was a racist. He also did everything he could, literally said that black players were going to play on the same field as white players over my dead body. And there was no chance of that happening until he died. So while I believe that Kennesaw Mountain Landis had a worse act as commissioner in Major League Baseball history, I think Bud Selig was the worst commissioner in the history of Major League Baseball. I want to talk a little bit about the Arizona Cardinals and a game against the Tennessee Titans that happened earlier this season. Now, it stands out because to this point, and down the road things might change, but the Tennessee Titans have 1 win in their football season. They might have had a chance to go winless. They have a rookie quarterback. They've gone through a coaching change. There's a lot of players that are on the Tennessee Titans roster that aren't going to be part of the team if and when they become good. They had a game against the Arizona Cardinals. They are trailing in a game. And running back Emari Demercado takes off. He takes a handoff, is about to take it to the house right before he gets to the goal line. And he didn't do this on purpose, but laid the ball out just to a point where it didn't cross the goal line. The ball went out of the end zone in some way, shape, or form, became a touchback. The Titans ended up getting the ball. Not only that, but ended up scoring, kicking a game-winning field goal in the final seconds to beat the Arizona Cardinals. Now, to me, I don't think there are few more things that could happen on a sports field or on a floor or in an arena that are more disqualifying to a job. Are we talking about a terminable offense here? Yes. Why was Emari Demercado not cut by the Arizona Cardinals. And I have a problem with this for so many different reasons. The fact that Coach Jonathan Gannon was holding the player accountable, ripping into him at the sidelines, and the team has the nerve to find the coach. I don't care if he made contact with him. This player should have been fired. This player should have lost his job. There is no excuse for him to commit the error. And if you want to call it a mental error, I don't care. It should not have happened. It could have been avoided, should have been avoided, and the Cardinals should have won the game. This wasn't a mistake. This was a lackadaisical type of play that showed that this player did not want to play professional football. The fact that he was allowed back on the field to practice next week, the fact that he wasn't shown the door and cut is an embarrassment not only to the Arizona Cardinals organization, but to the entire National Football League. I want to finish this program on a good note, and I said it, I kind of hinted at it earlier. When it comes to Major League Baseball and its teams, I want to try to do a preview of each team, not just what they have and what they're going to be, but I want to have a mock-off season to say, hey, if I was this team, this is what I would do. Now, as long as it's time contingent, players are going to start signing as free agents, trades are going to start happening, so yeah, there's going to be conflicts to some of the rosters that I put together. Once that happens, I'm just going to simply stop doing it. But today, we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I'm interested in the Pittsburgh Pirates for a couple reasons. Number one, the fact that Ben Cherington, who's running the team, is an executive that I like. I think he did a very good job with the Boston Red Sox. I think he's got a very good baseball mind. Unfortunately, his performance as the person in charge of the Pittsburgh Pirates has not been very good. He hasn't had some very good drafts, for the exception of guys like Paul Skeens, and hopefully we'll see Connor Griffin soon. But outside of that, the Pirates have gone from being bad to not that much better in his time. Now, you can blame the owner, Bob Nutting, who may be the poster child for the worst owner in professional sports, let alone Major League Baseball. But it is what it is. And Ben Cherington is at a point where, you know what, his job should be a topic of discussion, whether he should continue to run the Pittsburgh Pirates. I like him. I want to see him succeed. I like the fact that there's at least reports that the Pittsburgh Pirates are willing to spend money this offseason. So I put this all together and I said, hey, if I was running the Pittsburgh Pirates, this is how I would handle the offseason. If I was Ben Cherington, this is what I would do. Now, I think the Pirates have the ability to add a considerable amount of money to their payroll. And I think it's not going to be one of those things where they're going to go into free agency and just sign a bunch of players to ridiculous contracts. I think they're going to be able to sign one significant contract, a couple one-year deals, and make a series of trades. So I'm going all in on the Pittsburgh Pirates. This is how I'm going to do it. First, I go out there in free agency and I sign free agent designated hitter Kyle Schwarber to a 5-year, $125 million contract. Now, yes, part of it's going to be selling him on the fact that the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to be pretty good. And I want to talk to him. I want to say, listen, you as a proven leader are going to kind of be like my Curtis Granderson with the New York Mets in 2014. Some of the players you think of, Mike Napoli, Shane Victorino for the Boston Red Sox in 2013 when Ben Cherington was running that team. I want you to be the focal point of the leadership that's going to happen here and help the Pirates become a winner. Next, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make the trade of the offseason. I'm going to call Scott Harris of the Detroit Tigers, and I'm going to pull off a trade for Tarik Skubal. And I'm going to be able to start my rotation with Paul Skeens and Tarik Skubal. Now, you're going to say, hey, what do the Pittsburgh Pirates have that the Detroit Tigers would want? I think they got one of the more intriguing players of baseball that isn't really working out with the Pirates. Oneil Cruz. I'm acquiring Tarik Skubal for Oneil Cruz and Mitch Keller. Tigers get a controllable pitcher for another couple of years. They get the young Cruz, who has so much talent and ability, can hit the ball 100 miles an hour, can throw the ball 100 miles an hour. You can play him in center field. And this way, the Tigers, making a significant trade, dealing their 2-time Cy Young Award winner, aren't going to be in a position where they should be expected to do worse. They could be just as good or better without Skubal if they trade him for Oneil Cruz and Mitch Keller. Then I'm calling the New York Mets. and I'm going to offer them Dennis Santana, and I'm going to acquire Jeff McNeil to play second base. So Jeff McNeil comes over from the Mets in exchange for Dennis Santana. Then I'm going to go back out to free agency. I'm going to sign Kenley Jansen to a 1-year, $15 million contract to be my closer. So you need somebody to pitch late in the game. Kenley Jansen is trying to get as many saves as he can over the course of his career. Maybe you have Schwarber and McNeil kind of help you a little bit with Skubal and Skeens to convince Kenley Jansen, yeah, you're going to get a lot of saves with the Pittsburgh Pirates because this team's going to be good. I call up the New York Yankees, and I ask for Trent Grisham to play center field for me. I trade Carmen Mlodzinski, a one-time top prospect of the Pittsburgh Pirates, very strong arm, could pitch out of the bullpen or as a starter. And the Yankees, who Brian Cashman, their general manager, seems to be keen on the fact that Grisham accepted the qualifying offer to return to the New York Yankees, I think deep down he'd like to move him if he can. And if somebody like Ben Cherington calls him up and says, hey, I want Trent Grisham and can offer something back, I think Cashman and the Yankees would be happy to say, okay, let's do it. It'll create some time for Jason Dominguez. It'll create some time for Spencer Jones to have a chance to play, and still gives the Yankees a chance to go out there and sign Kyle Tucker or Cody Bellinger, which I know they want to do. I'm going to call up the Mets again, and I'm going to make another deal with them. 2 separate trades, not just the McNeil trade, but I'm going to go trade for Kodai Senga for the Mets. I'm going to trade the Mets Jared Triolo and Justin Lawrence. Jared Triolo, multi-position infielder, excellent defensively wherever he plays, gives the Mets some depth off their bench, a guy that can play multiple positions. Justin Lawrence was great with the Colorado Rockies a couple of years ago. He's coming off a really good stretch for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think he helps the Mets bullpen. You trade Senga, the Mets are going to redo their pitching staff. They're going to be active in both the trade and free agent market. I expect they're starting to pitching to be a lot better, but I also expect there to be a lot of new faces. So you add Kodai Senga to the rotation. Why does this work for the Pittsburgh Pirates? Kodai Senga's best year was 2023 with the New York Mets. He wasn't the ace like the Mets expected him to be in 2024 and 2025. He was the number 3 starter behind 2 future Hall of Famers, Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. That got the most out of Kodai Senga. Kodai Senga pitching with the Pittsburgh Pirates as the number 3 starter behind Paul Skeens and Tarik Skubal is going to get the best out of Kodai Senga. After that, I call the Philadelphia Phillies. I know that David Dombrowski can't wait to get rid of Nick Castellanos. The question is going to be, how much, David, are you going to be willing to pay Nick Castellanos to not play for you? Because he wants him out. First of all, you're going to need somebody to be interested. The fact that I just suggested a couple left-hand bats, Schwarber, McNeil, Grisham, you're going to need a right-hand hitter to help to kind of balance it out. I offer Johan Ramirez, who's a pitcher that I think the Phillies could use as depth in their rotation, and I see what the Phillies are willing to pay to send Castellanos to Pittsburgh. Finally, I'm finishing off my offseason by acquiring or signing left-hand pitcher Gregory Soto, free agent, 1-year, $8 million contract. So how does this make the Pirates better? You look at their team, Spencer Horowitz will be playing first base, McNeil at second. Top prospect in all of baseball, Connor Griffin, is playing short. Nick Gonzalez playing third. Brian Reynolds still on your team in left field. You got Grisham in center, Castellanos in right, Schwarber DHing, Joey Bart catching with the hope that maybe former number 1 overall pick Henry Davis can become something as an everyday catcher for them. Emmanuel Valdez, Andy Rodriguez, amongst those on the bench. You got a starting rotation of Skeens, Skubal, Senga, Bailey Falter, and then prospects Bubba Chandler and injured pitcher Jared Jones. Jansen, Soto, Brendan Ashcraft, who was kind of a starter and a reliever, has got a live arm. I think he could become a really good late inning reliever for them. Johan Oviedo was a starter. I think they should use him in the bullpen. You got guys like Matson and Shugart who were getting a chance to pitch for them last year. I think this turns the Pirates from a 90-loss team to a team that could win probably 80-something games and compete for the postseason. This is the Pass Ball Show, brought to you by JohnPielli.com, by St. Aloysius Church in Jackson, New Jersey, by Two Ways, One Passion Food Truck in Pennsylvania, Scranton, Pennsylvania. If you're interested in seeing the show, I'm going to do some bits, some little pieces for my show, share them on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music. We'll be back with you soon. God bless you. And as always, I'll see you on the other side.
I'm not going to go into